To get started with the session, I would like to invite our moderators for today. We've got Dr. Dora Pachova, we've got Dr. Ankit Gupta. I request our chairperson, Dr. Robert Van Halsen, and Dr. Niranjan Mohanty to also please start his screen and unmute himself. I request the moderators to please take it forward from here and invite the first speaker as well.
So warm welcome to everyone. I will now invite the theme of the, first of all, I'll introduce the theme of the session. The theme of the session is innovations in pharmaceuticals, new drugs from nosodes and signaling molecules. So we have 5 speakers in this theme, and they'll be speaking about nosodes and biologicals, signaling molecules in particular. So first, I would like to invite Dr. Rajkumar Manchanda. He's a distinguished personality in homeopathic fraternity and has an experience of about 40 years as a clinician, researcher, teacher, and health administration. He has worked in various positions in government sector, last being the Director General at Central Council for Research in Homeopathy under Ministry of Ayush, Government of India from 2012 to 2019. And presently, he is holding the position of Director Ayush, Government of NCT of Delhi. We welcome you, sir. He'll be speaking on the topic, the clinical and biological effects of homeopathically prepared signaling molecules, a scoping review. Sir, you may take over now.
Thank you. Thank you, Ankit. Honorable chairpersons and my co-speakers and our moderators. Today I'll be discussing with you a scoping review that we did during this year. And this has already been published. So let me just share my screen. It is. I think it is visible, complete.
Yes, sir.
So my topic will be the clinical and biological effect of homeopathically prepared signaling molecules. So a scoping review. And just let me first discuss what are these signaling molecules. Signaling molecules like cytokines and interleukins. These are interesting substances because of their pivotal role in biology of both health and disease. During this COVID pandemic, you must have seen what is the level of interleukin-6, and all these things were being monitored as a prognostic factors, So these key mediators of immune responses in responding to internal or external stimuli. So information in molecular structures like chemical properties of molecules that enables them to recognize and bind to one another is central to the functions of all these processes. Essentially, for crosstalk between psycho, neuro, endocrino, immunological network, these are the key mediators. So, and whenever there is a loss in homeostatic equilibrium of these signaling molecule, it can lead to onset of various pathologies, including inflammation, allergies, and autoimmune diseases. A core principle of homeopathy, as we know, is stimulation of self-regulation in diseased individual via administration of homeopathically prepared medicinal product based on similia. Now, same principle can have inverse effect depending upon the dose. This is what is known as ancient principle. In modern medicine, this phenomena is referred as hormesis. Now, application of this homeopathically prepared substances to stimulate adaptive systems, that is to cause recovery in low doses after an organism has lost its homeostatic equilibrium, is also referred as post-conditioning hormesis. So this biphasic dose response is another observed in functioning of many signaling molecules that can explain the mixed agonist and antagonist action of various cytokines. So these substances have been used therapeutically in homeopathy for approximately 5 decades. On one hand, such product, as per the definition adopted in WHO document, are homeopathic medicine product if prepared as per the recognized homeopathic pharmacopoeia. On the other hand, there is a need to clarify and communicate relationship between these products and homeopathy. To date, both clinical and preclinical studies on such products have been excluded from review, and therefore relatively little known about the nature and extent of available data. While homeopathically prepared, there is no classical proving data about these products. There is currently lack of awareness and understanding in homeopathic community about such products. Map available. The objective of this study is to map available preclinical and clinical scientific data on these homeopathically prepared signaling molecules. Inform about the formalized subsequent reviews within the epistemological framework of homeopathy, clarify and discuss use and therapeutics position of such product in homeopathic community. Also, address current regulatory policy gap about such products. So friends, we did this scoping review of clinical and preclinical study of homeopathically prepared these signaling molecules. Now here, we defined homeopathically prepared means a product that is manufactured in accordance with one of the officially recognized pharmacopoeias, like we know we have European pharmacopoeia, German, French, Indian pharmacopoeia, HPC, US. So if these are prepared according to any of these, so we have included that. And these signaling molecules were defined as any molecule involved in endocrine, paracrine, autocrine, intracrine, and or direct signaling such as interleukin, cytokines, antibodies, growth factors, histamine, neuropeptides, and hormones, and also nucleic acids such as DNA and RNA. So we searched articles in peer-reviewed journals. We focused on original clinical and preclinical research of therapeutically used homeopathically prepared signaling molecules. Experimental as well as observational designs were included. Clinical case reports and veterinary use studies were also permitted, but we excluded review articles, opinion pieces not reporting original research, similar publication on same original study, and papers reporting on homeopathically prepared plant hormones in plant-based experimental studies. So potentially relevant publications were identified by approaching known manufacturers of homeopathically prepared signaling molecules and by studying references list of provided publications. Scopus abstract and citation database of peer-reviewed literature were used for electronically search published literature. These were the variables in respect of each paper. We collected first author, publication year, journal, study objective, types of signaling molecules used, what was the research design, what was the clinical domain of its application, what were the results and main conclusions as reported by the author. Now, category of study designs were predefined, like for randomized controlled trials, these were double-blind, parallel groups, placebo-controlled, double-blind, placebo-controlled comparative trials, double-blind, placebo-controlled, two-period crossover design, so double-blind, comparative, and double-blind, active controlled and active controlled. All these were pre-decided. And for observational studies also, we decided whether it was prospective case series or retrospective comparative cohorts. And in clinical studies also, whether it was in vivo or in vitro. So appraisal of all eligible studies took place by rating direction of finding as reported in one of the following category, whether they are clearly positive, tentatively positive, unclear, tentatively negative, and clearly negative. Assessment of direction of evidence was based on conclusions as reported by authors, consistency of results, identification of methodological flaws. Papers were independently assessed by all 4 authors. With me, Robert Van Hasleen, Ankit Gupta, and Meeta Gupta, we were the 4 authors of this scoping review. So, consensus on assessment of direction of evidence was reached on the basis of discussion, if and as appropriate. And quality of paper was not systematically assessed. And reporting of paper follows PRISMA extension guideline for scoping reviews. So this is the just a chart. We could see initially 2, 0, and 4 paper. Interestingly, out of these 2, 0, and 4, 169 papers were published by one industry house, that is Matria Medica Holding. But they, in their process, never stated that it is homeopathy, and they never revealed the way they have prepared these medicines. So we excluded them for the time being, and homeopathic medicinal product rest of the papers were about 35 in number. Out of these, 7 were excluded because they were non-peer reviewed, non-English language paper, and no translation was available in respect of 5, and 1 was review paper. So in total, we analyzed only 28 papers that passed our pre-decided inclusion criteria. And of these, 17 papers reported preclinical studies and 11 reported clinical studies. 6 experimental, 5 observational. And direction of outcome is positive in great majority of papers, and results are unclear in only 2 papers. 16 studies report a tentatively positive outcome, which was most commonly due to inclusion of relatively few subjects in clinical studies. Positive but equivocal finding, non-significant of some of the outcome assessment were there. And most common studies, clinical indications were like these molecules were used for psoriasis, vitiligo, rheumatoid arthritis, respiratory allergies, polycystic ovary syndrome, and herpes. So this is the list of all the areas where these signaling molecules were applied in these studies. So what we realized, that there is a significant and growing body of evidence on use of homeopathically prepared signaling molecules. Majority of data involves preclinical research, and only few involve clinical trials. So overall, preclinical data are varied and promising. Only few of clearly positive preclinical studies were published in high-impact journals. While observational studies are promising and majority of clinical trials have tentatively positive results, further trials are needed, including high-quality confirmatory clinical trials. Used in variety of clinical domains, dermatology being most advanced in terms of accumulation of both preclinical and clinical studies. First time, studies on these type of products are summarized and brought to the attentions of homeopathy community via publication in a peer-reviewed journal. These types of products potentially serve as a bridge function between homeopathy and natural sciences. It is clear that homeopathic method of preparation is essential for releasing bioregulatory action of these products. It is just unclear if it is due to some primary action of these substances and or whether homeopathic medicine act as catalyst for various biological processes. So here, lot of further laboratory level experimentations are required. And there is a need for the scientific understanding of action of these molecules still pending. is expanding rapidly. And this can provide useful platform for linking homeopathic principle to modern pharmacology and biology. So what I feel that if we have to modernize existing homeopathic pharmacology, so these products and the way these have been researched needs to be followed. Mere fact that these products had not undergone classical Hahnemannian proving is insufficient argument to dismiss these products and class them as non-homeopathic. Because in homeopathy, we normally think that if it is based on symptoms and is based on proving data, only then it is homeopathy. But here, they have done preclinical studies and then they have done clinical experimentation. And if there is a positive outcomes are there, so I think we need to include in homeopathic kitty and we will have better clinical outcomes. Now, physiological as well as pathogenetic effect of these molecules may also provide some hints regarding their possible homeopathic use. This has not been sufficiently explored in these studies. While identified studies related to therapeutic effectiveness of histamine were limited and inconclusive, it is worth mentioning that high dilution research on effects of histamine on basophil degranulation is one of the best established basic research models. Yesterday also in HRI presentation, they said now they are taking this forward. And after more than 20 years of work on these models, biological effect of 15 to 17 CH potencies of histamine have been confirmed and reproduced in large multi-center studies. So volume of identified studies and response to some publications on these types of products in scientific literature clearly confirm need to address position of these products within homeopathy. So what was the limitation? That the quality of paper was not systematically assessed. Articles held in database other than Scopus might have been missed. Grading directions of evidence based on independent review on 4 assessor followed by consensus discussion is a non-validated method. Despite this, it provided some added value to existing and conclusions as reported by paper authors, as one of the main purpose of scoping review is to provide readers with a first orientation regarding the available data. While high volume of studies related to materia medica holding products did not meet including criteria for this scoping review and were not included, this gap should be addressed in our complementary scoping review. Majority of the published material reported positive or tentatively positive results, and all included research were funded by manufacturing companies concerned. 17 publications related to Guna products, 8 to Labolife, and 2 to Byron, and 1 to product manufactured by laboratories Medica form the principal basis of this scoping review. Little or no research has been conducted to date by independent research groups without links to funding by the industry. So publication bias can therefore not be excluded. There is a need to formally assess quality of identified studies using established criteria. Work needs to be done on model validity of this category of paper from homeopathic perspective, like in NHMRC report and many systematic reviews, these papers have never been included. Further discussion is needed on how to assess judgmental domains like rationale of choice of particular homeopathic medicine and extent to which homeopathic principles are reflected in these interventions. It is quite conceivable that homeopathically prepared signaling molecules have therapeutic potential. Further steps to explore these potentials are warranted. Interactions with molecular biologists, immunologists, and pharmacologists is required to advance this process. So there is a need for multidisciplinary studies. Time is right to move for purely phenomenological approach to more modern one that involved phenomenology as well as pathophysiological reasoning for therapeutic utilizations of these molecules. And if we look at the history, Hahnemann himself tried to do something similar when he endeavored to integrate dominant, now obsolete miasma theory into therapeutic framework of homeopathy. During his time, there was these types of developments not there. So I'm sure that if Hahnemann would have been alive today, he would have adopted all these innovations. What was done during Hahnemann time was also that whatever best was being done in modern system of medicine or conventional system of medicine of that, he was adopting that. So this is similarly, we also need to adopt all such products and see what best we can do with them. So this paper has already been published in homeopathy and is available online. It is an open access paper. Any one of you can go and study in detail, and we are also open for any question. Thank you very much. I also acknowledge my co-authors, Robert Van Hasleen, Dr. Meeta Gupta, and Ankit. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you, sir, for the presentation. I'll now hand over the mic to Dr. Dora Pachova, and she'll be introducing our next presenter. Before that, I would ask Dr. Robert if he has something to say about the presentation.
Well, I think I shouldn't say something about the presentation because I'm a co-author. So I think we should let people judge for themselves, and then in the discussion we can pick up on any concerns at a later point. So I'm okay for now.
Thank you, sir.
Can I talk now? I'm not able to. Do you see me?
Yes, ma'am. You're seen and you're heard.
Okay, thank you. I would like to congratulate the team for the first presentation. It's a very important subject. And as Dr. Manchanda said, it's a right time to start this type of research. And now I'm glad to introduce Dr. Silvia Cristina Mercado, who will have a presentation on experience with biological in homeopathy. Dr. Mercado is associate professor at the Graduate School of Argentinian Medical Homeopathic Association. She was director of the school 2014-2017, president of the Federation of the Argentinian Homeopathic Medical Associations for quite many years. And she is a renowned speaker, lecturer, and organizer of different national and international congresses, and also member of the editorial committee of Homeopathic Magazine of the Argentinian Association.
Gracias por la presentación. Buenos días a todos. Antes de comenzar con mi exposición, quiero agradecer a las autoridades de este primer coloquio global 2021 de la Liga y especialmente al doctor Gustavo Cataldi por la invitación a participar. El tema de esta charla es experiencia con biológicos en homeopatía. Un destacado homeópata argentino, el doctor Ernesto Puigros, en las décadas de los 80 y 90, comenzó a hablar, a ver, no puedo pasar, a ver.
Normalmente abajo a la izquierda de la página hay una flecha.
A ver.
No, la otra flecha, la otra dirección. Sí.
Ahí está. Gracias.
De nada.
Un destacado homeópata argentino, el doctor Ernesto Puigros, en las décadas de los 80 y 90, comenzó a hablar de lo que él denominó medicina EBC, energética, biológica, clínica. En su vasta experiencia, el doctor Puigros tenía casos donde la medicina homeopática bien indicada no lograba la resolución de ciertas enfermedades crónicas, algo que también nos sucede a cada uno de nosotros. Lejos de rendirse ante esta situación, presentó un tratamiento médico basado en la ley de acción y reacción y en la inversión de efectos, hoy conocida como hormesis, utilizando sustancias que están implicadas en la fisiopatología de los procesos mórbidos, pero altamente dinamizadas con el método hahnemanniano. Se trata de enzimas, neurotransmisores, hormonas, anticuerpos, tejidos, que en base al fenómeno de inversión de efectos, cuando es necesario inhibirlas utilizamos dinamizaciones altas, a la 10.000, y cuando tenemos que estimularlas prescribimos dinamizaciones bajas, 6CH. En 1990 el doctor Puiggrós dejó su legado plasmado en un libro titulado Homeopatía avanzada y biología, la medicina energética biológica clínica, donde explica los fundamentos de su método. Y en 2013, uno de sus principales discípulos, el doctor David Milstein, publicó el libro Similitud, Ley de Causalidad, Isopatía, Enfermedades Crónicas, que es la doctrina del doctor Puiggrós llevada a la práctica. En base a estos dos textos y a la experiencia mía y de mis colegas del AMA, expondré los beneficios de este método. ¿Qué son los biológicos? En el campo de la medicina, los biológicos son las sustancias elaboradas a partir de un organismo viviente o sus productos para prevenir, diagnosticar, tratar o aliviar los síntomas de una enfermedad. En la medicina convencional se requiere biotecnología, que utiliza métodos de ingeniería para manipular organismos vivos como células animales, vegetales, virus, bacterias o levaduras, para que produzcan proteínas terapéuticas con el fin de sustituir componentes orgánicos, hormonas, por ejemplo, y estimular o inhibir funciones, como anticuerpos, interleucinas y vacunas. Se producen utilizando células cuyos genes se han modificado para producir una determinada proteína. Este proceso es mucho más complejo y sensible que el proceso para producir un medicamento químico. El medicamento químico tiene una estructura pequeña y simple, por ejemplo la aspirina, que tiene 21 átomos. En cambio, el biológico tiene una estructura compleja de tamaño intermedio a grande, como por ejemplo un anticuerpo monoclonal que tiene más de 20.000 átomos. Debido a esto, son más proclives a inducir reacciones inmunitarias y diversos efectos adversos. Actualmente se indican en el tratamiento de cáncer, diabetes, esclerosis múltiples, cardiopatías, accidentes cerebrovasculares, enfermedades autoinmunes. Generalmente son medicamentos cuyos procesos de elaboración los encarece. En homeopatía, si nos atenemos a la definición de biológicos, las sustancias elaboradas a partir de un organismo viviente o sus productos, constituyen la mayor parte de nuestros medicamentos. Su origen puede ser animal, sarcodes o nosodes, vegetal, bacteriano y fúngico. Doctrinariamente los indicamos con el criterio de identidad para desbloquear miasmas, o si fueron experimentados en el hombre sano, los prescribimos como medicamentos constitucionales según la ley de similitud. Pero en estos últimos tiempos, la ciencia ha avanzado mucho en clarificar los procesos mórbidos y la homeopatía puede servirse de esta información para completar la curación en casos de difícil resolución o que configuran el límite de acción de la homeopatía, si es que existiese este límite, o fueran la consecuencia de no hallar el similimum o el similar apropiado. Cuando el doctor Puiggrós explica su método, lo fundamenta en la ley de acción y reacción y la inversión de efectos, y aclara que aplica el principio de identidad con gran éxito en sus pacientes, principio con el que Hahnemann no estaba de acuerdo en sus tratamientos. Lo dice claramente en el parágrafo 56, nota A del órgano en sexta edición. Este querer curar mediante una potencia morbífica exactamente igual se opone al criterio humano sano y a todas las experiencias. Aquellos que hablaron de la isopatía seguramente pensaban en el bien que se le hizo a la humanidad mediante la aplicación de la vacuna de la viruela vacuna. Pero ambas, la viruela vacuna y la humana, son solamente muy similares. De ninguna manera son la misma enfermedad. Ahora bien, en base a los descubrimientos actuales en biología, ¿podemos seguir postulando el principio de identidad en las sustancias altamente diluidas y dinamizadas? Veamos qué nos dice hoy la ciencia. Desde la década de 1970 se ha acumulado una gran cantidad de trabajo experimental que demuestra que las diluciones altas, que ya no contienen moléculas de la sustancia original, son capaces de provocar una reacción fisiológica basada en efectos a nivel molecular. Numerosos métodos han demostrado que las diluciones elevadas difieren estructuralmente del disolvente intacto. Estos métodos han incluido conductometría, monitoreo de pH, calorimetría, espectroscopías, Estos hallazgos sugieren lo que popularmente se conoce como memoria del solvente, es decir, que las diluciones contienen una matriz dinámica de material estructurado que retiene información sobre la sustancia original eliminada. La mayoría de los autores consideran que dicha matriz se origina a partir de la reestructuración de los enlaces de hidrógeno de un disolvente. Y aún más, ya que a mediados de la década del 90, se comenzó a descubrir que la alta dilución de una sustancia ejerce un efecto modificador sobre la sustancia original, tanto in vivo como ex vivo. El descubrir que la alta dilución de una sustancia ejerce un efecto modificador sobre la sustancia original nos demuestra que estaríamos actuando por medio del similar y no del idéntico. Las propiedades modificadoras de la sustancia original aparecen durante el proceso de diluciones seriadas. Luego de esta aclaración, volvamos a la medicina energética biológica clínica. El doctor Puigros consideraba que esta medicina era una nueva disciplina biológica clínica derivada de la concepción energética hahnemanniana, pero con autonomía propia, porque aún aceptando las bases de la medicina homeopática, entra en el campo de la investigación biológico-clínica. Considera que las patogenesias de los medicamentos, las pequeñas dosis dinamizadas, la historia biopatográfica, la individualización de los síntomas, el estudio de la materia médica y la repertorización previa jerarquización de los síntomas permiten llegar a un diagnóstico terapéutico que es indispensable, pero no suficiente. Y lo fundamenta en que el medicamento de fondo despierta una reacción generalizada en todos los planos, orgánicos y psíquicos, constituyéndose en una reacción más genérica que específica, donde no siempre moviliza los elementos patogénicos que juegan en cada uno de estos parámetros a fin de lograr la curación. Podríamos parangonar entonces el dicho que cuando termina la historia clínica convencional comienza la homeopática, con cuando termina la historia homeopática comienza la de la medicina energético-biológica clínica. Esta medicina es una herramienta para acortar los límites de curación de la homeopatía cuando el medicamento constitucional mejor elegido no llega a curar ciertas localizaciones de la enfermedad. ¿Cómo aplicar esta medicina? El tratamiento se basa en corregir la función del órgano implicado en el proceso mórbido por similitud de identidad funcional mediante el uso de opoterápicos, originados en órganos animales, sus extractos o las hormonas aisladas de las glándulas endocrinas, como por ejemplo aorta, hígado, nervio ciático, elastina, colágeno, folliculinum, tiroidinum. Al basarse en modificar la fisiopatología de la localización, es indispensable saber qué sustancias participan en generarla. Contamos con inmunoglobulinas, anticuerpos, prostaglandinas, antioxidantes, neurotransmisores, enzimas, alergenos como semillas, pelos de animales, harina, leches, lavandinas e inclusive autonosores. Todas estas sustancias son utilizadas a baja dinamización, sexta CH, mediana, 30 CH o 200, o alta, 10.000, de acuerdo al objetivo que persigamos, estimular, equilibrar o inhibir respectivamente. Sería interminable describir todas las sustancias intervinientes en los diversos procesos mórbidos. Por eso voy a dar una somera descripción de algunas de ellas, como ejemplos de prescripción. Comencemos por recordar el sistema de defensa antioxidante, que está constituido por varios procesos que son básicos y fundamentales para defendernos de la enfermedad y del envejecimiento. La exposición al oxígeno, elemento imprescindible para la supervivencia, produce la oxidación del organismo. La oxidación es el proceso químico que implica la pérdida de electrones por parte de una molécula, átomo o ión. Este proceso conlleva la formación de radicales libres, que son moléculas con átomos desapareados, que las hacen muy reactivas e inestables y que, a lo largo del tiempo, producen efectos negativos, ya que alteran las membranas de las células y su material genético. Pero para neutralizarlos contamos con los antioxidantes, que son sustancias fabricadas por el organismo, antioxidantes endógenos, pero también se encuentran en la naturaleza, antioxidantes exógenos, que pueden prevenir o retrasar algunos tipos de daños a las células. Los antioxidantes restituyen el electrón que le falta a los radicales libres, transformándolos en células sanas. Dentro de los antioxidantes endógenos podemos citar 5 fundamentales: superóxido dismutasa, peroxidasa, catalasa, glutatión y ubiquinona o coenzima Q10. Dentro de los antioxidantes exógenos tenemos vitaminas E, C, betacarotenos, los minerales cobre, zinc, selenio, hierro, frutos secos y todo aquello que puede generar vida como las semillas. Ambos se prescriben a las 6CH. Veamos someramente los antioxidantes endógenos. Y vamos a comenzar con el superóxido dismutasa. Es un grupo de enzimas metaloides que cataliza la disminución del oxígeno, retrasando así el inicio de reacciones oxidantes. Puede prevenir cánceres de piel, resolver dermatopatías y reducir verrugas superficiales. Peroxidasa. Son enzimas que contienen peróxido, producidas por perisomas intracelulares que contienen oxidasas y catalasas para detoxificación celular. Son bactericidas y germicidas. Pueden utilizarse en el herpes y en el SIDA. Catalasa es una enzima muy parecida a la peroxidasa, cuya función es catalizar la reducción exclusiva del peróxido de hidrógeno, el agua oxigenada, que es un residuo del metabolismo celular, cuya función es protegernos contra microorganismos patógenos, pero también es altamente tóxico, por lo cual debe ser transformado rápidamente en compuestos menos malsanos. Puede indicarse en el tratamiento de la esterilidad masculina cuando esté comprometida la movilidad de los espermatozoides. Glutatión es el mayor antioxidante endógeno. Se utiliza como antitóxico celular ante agentes cancerígenos, orgánicos e inorgánicos, sobre todo para disminuir la proliferación de células T citotóxicas y las natural killers. Ubiquinona es un lípido que se sintetiza en una gran variedad de tejidos. Por su condición antioxidante, penetra en las mitocondrias, quemando el oxígeno y produciendo el trifosfato de adenosina, proveyéndolo de esta forma el 95% de la energía necesaria para que la célula cumpla su función. Sus niveles van disminuyendo con el envejecimiento y puede facilitar enfermedades degenerativas como Parkinson y Alzheimer, migrañas, cardiopatías, hipertensión arterial, aumento del colesterol en sangre y muchas más. Y ahora veamos la contracara de estas sustancias beneficiosas. Los radicales libres. Como dije anteriormente, los radicales libres son moléculas a las cuales les falta electrones, lo cual las hace muy reactivas e inestables, dado que necesitan completar su conformación captando electrones de otros átomos, los que a su vez se transforman en radicales libres, generando una cadena de reacciones que producen daño celular, envejecimiento, degeneraciones y enfermedades. Si bien los radicales libres favorecen la fagocitosis de bacterias y virus y la quimiotaxis, también estimulan la síntesis de prostaglandinas, que son sustancias lipídicas que se encuentran en numerosos cuadros patológicos agudos y crónicos. Forman parte de los llamados agentes autacoides u hormonas locales. Tienen efectos bien conocidos sobre el músculo liso y las plaquetas, y actúan sobre otros importantes sistemas, como el digestivo, el reproductor y el nervioso central, y en las terminaciones nerviosas postganglionares autonómicas, sensoriales, en los órganos endocrinos y el tejido adiposo. Entre otras podemos citar prostaglandina E2, prostaglandina F2-alfa, prostaglandina I2, tromboxano A2 y leucotrienos. La prostaglandina E2 es proinflamatoria, aumenta la vascularización del órgano sistema afectado. La encontramos en las artritis reumatoideas, crisis asmáticas, maculopatías, tiroiditis de Hashimoto, psoriasis, endometriosis. Se indica a la 10.000. La F2-alfa actúa sobre las fibras musculares lisas de órganos huecos, donde produce contracciones en útero, sensibiliza la fibra muscular a la acción de la citosina y se indica también a la 10.000. PGI2 influye sobre el sistema renina-angiotensina, donde vasodilata. En la trombosis evita la agregación plaquetaria. Se utiliza la 200 o 10.000 como vasoconstrictora y a la 6CH en afecciones coronarias o como preventiva de infartos. Vamos a ver otros ejemplos de cómo utilizarlas. En la infertilidad, entre otros factores que impiden el embarazo, la falta de PG2 impide la maduración del ovocito. En este caso, entonces, la indicamos a la 6CH para estimular su producción. Y también la F2-alfa a la 6CH para contraer las fibras musculares del folículo y estimular su expulsión. Estas se asocian a la pulsatilla 6CH que contribuye a la movilización del óvulo. En dismenorrea y aborto tenemos la PGE2 y la F2-alfa a la 10.000 para disminuir la inflamación y atenuar las contracciones uterinas respectivamente. Tromboxano A2 es un agente agregante plaquetario producido por las plaquetas activadas durante la hemostasia y tiene propiedades protrombóticas. Estimula la activación de nuevas plaquetas y aumenta la agregación plaquetaria. Está involucrado en el cierre de heridas y en la detención de hemorragias. Es vasoconstrictor y broncodilatador. En casos de coagulación o trombosis se lo indica a la 10.000. Leucotrienos. Son producidos por macrófagos basófilos y neutrófilos. Son potentes constrictores de la musculatura lisa de las vías aéreas pulmonares periféricas relacionadas con las insuficiencias respiratorias en los asmáticos. Asimismo, aumentan la permeabilidad vascular y dan lugar a edemas. Se prescriben a la 10.000. Nos vamos ahora del sistema antioxidante y repasamos los neurotransmisores. Acetilcolina, contrae músculos, excita el cerebro, estimula la secreción de las glándulas externas, disminuye la frecuencia y la contracción cardíacas, juega un papel muy importante en la miastenia gravis y en la enfermedad de Alzheimer y en la distonía muscular, y se prescribe en la miastenia gravis y enfermedad de Alzheimer a la 6th-CH, en la distonía muscular a la 10.000. Dopamina, ampliamente elaborada en diferentes partes del cerebro, es considerada como la causante de sensaciones placenteras y de relajación. Su exceso puede causar adicción, manías y esquizofrenia, y su disminución lleva a la enfermedad de Parkinson. También es inhibidora fisiológica de la liberación de prolactina. Se prescribe Parkinson y estimulación de prolactina, por ejemplo en la lactancia, a la 6ch. Inhibir prolactina y enfermedades mentales como la esquizofrenia a la 10.000. Serotonina. Además del sistema nervioso central, se encuentra también en el tracto gastrointestinal y se almacena en las plaquetas del torrente sanguíneo. Tiene propiedades afrodisíacas, regula el sueño, las emociones y el apetito. Su disminución puede causar trastornos obsesivos compulsivos y trastornos cognitivos. Los valores aumentados pueden generar un síndrome parkinsoniano, por ejemplo, por medicamentos antidepresivos que inhiben la recaptación de serotonina, elevando su nivel en sangre. Se prescribe de la siguiente manera: insomnio, depresiones, trastornos obsesivos compulsivos y cognitivos, especialmente en el Alzheimer, a la 6ch, hipersomnia diurna a la 10.000. Melatonina es una hormona sintetizada a partir de la serotonina. Se secreta de acuerdo al ciclo luz-oscuridad, siendo su nivel más alto durante la oscuridad. Está implicada en el sueño, pero también en los estados depresivos menopáusicos, en las amenorreas, en la infertilidad, en la difusión tiroidea, en la mácula retiniana, cataratas y enfermedad de Parkinson. Inhibe la replicación del virus HIV. Se prescribe siempre a la 6ch. Endorfina, péptido que activa endógenamente los receptores opioides del cerebro, por lo tanto, tiene acción analgésica, por eso es la encargada de regular el dolor, actuando como una morfina endógena. Útil en las fibromialgias, artritis reumatoidea y migrañas. Se prescribe siempre a la 6ch. Encefalina. Sus efectos son semejantes a la endorfina y está indicada en las fracturas dolorosas recientes. Se prescribe a la 6ch. Estos son apenas unos pocos ejemplos de biológicos. Hay un gran listado dentro del cual podemos nombrar anticuerpos monoclonales anti-DNA, antiinsulina, antiplaquetario, inmunoglobulina M, factores de crecimiento de colonia de granulocitos basófilos, eosinófilos, neutrófilos, colonia de macrófagos, factores de crecimiento epitelial, neuronal, de plaquetas, de fibroblastos, factor de necrosis tumoral, inhibidor de leucemia, permeabilidad vascular, fibrinol, interferón alfa, beta, gamma, interleucina 2, isoleucina, mioblastos y muchísimos más. Ahora voy a presentar una historia clínica. Tenías más para presentar, pero no nos da el tiempo. Pero lo primero que quiero recalcar es que todo paciente debe estar medicado con su remedio constitucional homeopático. Si la localización de la enfermedad no evoluciona favorablemente luego de agotar los recursos de la homeopatía convencional, recomiendo complementar el tratamiento con la indicación de biológicos diluidos y dinamizados. Vamos a ver a la paciente Georgina, que padece diabetes 2, cuya primera consulta fue el 14 de noviembre de 2019. Y a pesar de estar medicada con metformina, 2 comprimidos por día desde hacía varios años, no lograba normalizar su glucemia. El 3 de octubre del 19 tenía una glucemia de 207 miligramos por ciento. Como medicación constitucional, en la primera consulta le indiqué licopodium 2LM 5 gotas por día. Para reforzar aún más el efecto sobre el metabolismo glucémico, completé el licopodium con pancreatinum 6CH 10 gotas por día. Vuelve al mes y medio. El 16-11 del 19 tenía una glucemia de 120, había bajado. y una hemoglobina glicosilada de 830. La diabetóloga le suprimió una de las 2 tomas de la metformina porque hacia la tarde hacía hipoglucemias. Continuó con licopodium 3 y 4-LM y pancreatinum 6-CH, pero lunes, miércoles y viernes, debido a que tenía hipoglucemias al atardecer. Vuelve a los 9 meses, el 21/7 del 20, con una glucemia de 144, había aumentado. Y una hemoglobina glicosilada de 780, tomaba licopodium, pancreatinum también, y volvió a tomar, la diabetóloga le dio otro comprimido más por día de metformina y le agregó el diamicron. Le cambié la medicación constitucional indicándole fosforus y que suspenda el pancreatinum, dado que le habían agregado diamicron. Vuelve a los 7 meses, el 25/2 del 21, con una glucemia de 163, aún mayor, y una hemoglobina aún mayor, de 950. Continúa con fosforus y con metformina y diamicron. Regresa a los 4 meses con glucemia de 277, fructosamina de 443, y entonces indicó un preparado biológico, que consistió en glucosa, PGE2 10.000, ambas, pancreatinum, anticuerpos monoclonal antiinsulina, páncreas e insulinum 6-CH, todas, 10 gotas 2 veces por día. A los 7 meses, la glucemia se había normalizado a 94 miligramos por ciento. La diabetóloga le bajó la metformina a un comprimido diario, pero continuó con el diamicron. Le prescribí continuar con fosforus y la fórmula de los biológicos. La utilización de prostaglandina E2, en este caso a la 10.000, se debe a que en la diabetes se han identificado los interruptores que activan los genes en respuesta a un entorno inflamatorio en los islotes pancreáticos. Este es un caso en donde los hipoglucemiantes orales no habían logrado la estabilización del cuadro durante años, y el agregado de los biológicos los consiguió. Conclusiones. La medicina energética biológica clínica es un complemento de la medicina homeopática cuando no logramos la curación de ciertas localizaciones de la enfermedad. Requiere que sepamos la fisiopatología del trastorno mórbido, y aplicando similitud funcional y el fenómeno de inversión de efecto, estimularemos o inhibiremos las sustancias implicadas en el proceso a fin de lograr el resultado deseado. La experiencia clínica es vasta y muy exitosa. Nos abre otro camino para lograr la curación de nuestros pacientes. Tengo casos de larga evolución que no entran en esta presentación por falta de tiempo, como maculopatías, fibromialgia, fibrosis pulmonar, esclerodermias, que tienen una excelente evolución. Siguiendo la huella que nos dejó nuestro maestro, el doctor Christian Samuel Hahnemann, reafirmamos nuestra convicción expresada en el título de este coloquio. La homeopatía fue y es una ciencia médica adelantada a su tiempo. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Dr. Silvia Mercado, for the wonderful presentation. I would next call Professor Leonello Milani. So Professor Leonello has been Vice President of Italian Medical Association of Homotoxicology since 1994 and has been teaching at the School of Homeopathy. His expertise is in homeopathy, acupuncture, podiatrics, and homotoxicology. He has participated in over 140 scientific congresses in Italy and overseas as a speaker and or a chairman. He has written 8 books and several scientific medical articles in various medical journals. He also wrote 4 chapters of the Italian Medical Encyclopedia. So due to some unavoidable circumstances, Professor Leonello couldn't join us live here. He has sent a pre-recorded video of his presentation. The title of the presentation is Homeopathicized Cytokines and Scientific Research. I would request the IT team to play the recorded video of Professor Leonello.
Happy life to everybody. Thank you for inviting me at this very important and with many, many people marathon, as it is written in the web, of the Liga Medicorum Homeopathica Internationalis, Global Colloquium 2021. Basic scientific research and clinical trials are two cornerstones for enhancing of homeopathy. We do collaborate actively with the most prestigious Italian and foreign universities, supporting the research and biological activity of homeopathic medicines remedies, especially in our case, the homeopatized signaling molecules. Signaling molecules based on homeopathic pharmacology, it's a great innovation. Bioregulating physiology gives many opportunities by homeopatized cytokines, neuropeptides, hormones, and growth factors. The scientific research in low-dose medicine, I want to underline that I will use the term sometimes low-dose medicine, but I do intend homeopathic medicine. We shall see why. The state of art is that they have been published on cytokines and other factors, as we saw before, in basic research in vitro and ex vivo, 11 papers, basic research in vivo, 3 papers, and clinical trials, 9 papers. Here is a slide with the covers of the many scientific papers, 23, 25 now, that have presented all these kind of studies in vivo, ex vivo, and the clinical studies. I would like to underline pulmonary pharmacology and therapeutics. I would like to underline BMC, musculoskeletal disorders, and cancer therapy, and many, many others. Those magazines are peer-reviewed, of course, have a good impact factor, and in sometimes very high impact factor. The 9 pillars of the physiologic regulating medicine, the homeopathic medicine in cytokines and other biological factors. The first one is the biological intelligence of low doses. The second one is the clinical efficacy. The second one is the biological effect. The fourth is filling the therapeutic vacuum, then the carryover effect, then the combined use of cytokines, homeopatized cytokines, the necessity of homeopathic preparation, the clinical safety, and affordable costs. The biological intelligence of low dose. Low dose, this is the first paper I will present in short, of course. Low dose of interleukin-12 stimulates T cells response in cultures of peripheral blood monocyte cells, so they are monocytes, derived from non-small cell lung cancer, that is to say, not microcytoma, but yes, adenocarcinoma patients. This study has been carried out in the University of Turin. If we give a look, we easily can see that from a T-naive T cell, lymphocyte T cell, T0, practically they split in the maturation in 2 main very great groups, Th1 and Th2. T helper 1, H means helper, and Th2. Another group of T cells is the so-called Treg, means T regulator. Through trophic growth factor beta, the Treg down-regulate both Th1 and Th2. So Treg is a very powerful enhancer of anti-cancer, physiologic anti-cancer effect that we have, just regulating the different activity of the immune system. The histograms here shows the modulation of T regulatory cells during culture with and without interleukin 12. I am talking about interleukin 12 for CH. Here on the line, on the horizontal line, you can see the different dosage. Meanwhile, here you see the TREG, the Treg ratio, CD4, CD25. CD4, CD25 was not increased after interleukin 11 4C stimulation at any dosage, and they were reduced at day 10 of culture. But if we compare the ratio CD4 interferon gamma, we see very well that CD4 ratio interferon gamma producing T cells increased after stimulation of interleukin 12 4CH at 0.01 picogram per milliliter, then with placebo and depressed, they are depressed at 10. So we could understand easily that it is exactly the 0.05 picogram per milliliter that it is corresponding to a 4CH that it is effective in this kind of patients with good results in vitro and ex vivo. According to the biological effect of low doses, the magazine, the journal Pulmonary Pharmacology and Therapeutics with very high impact factor, thanks to a study of the University in Milano, published low-dose oral administration of cytokines for treatment of allergic asthma. Here we have the lucky mouse, that is to say the healthy mouse. At day 1, those group of mice were injected with 1 milligram of egg albumin plus 5 milligram of trioxide of aluminium. At day 7, repeated the same injection. So at the day 13, these mice were given with an aerosol of the same substance. So in this way, with these very high allergizing compounds, we could get a group of allergic mouse. We know very well that allergy is an overexpression of the plate of the balance Th2. So we know that Th2 is overexpressed, and if it is overexpressed, automatically Th1 goes down. What are the cytokines of Th2 plate? Interleukin 4, mainly interleukin 4 and interleukin 5. So for the treatment of this allergic mouse, the researchers gave the treatment with interleukin 12, Th1 plate, plus interferon gamma, Th1 plate, both 4C. This was given from day 18 until day 38. Then blood drawing for understanding what happens, and especially with the so-called bulb. These are the two interleukin 12 4C and interferon gamma 4C. I will comment just one, interleukin 12, because the other gives the same results. But the very important thing is that This is the quantity of interleukin-12 in the BALF. The BALF is the bronchoalveolar lung fluid taken on the day 7th of treatment. We clearly see that, of course, healthy mice, as well as the asthmatic patients, are in the same healthy. They don't need it, they have the perfect balance. Asthmatic patients, interleukin-12 down, so it is down because they have overexpression of the opponent cytokine. But if we see asthmatic patients treated with high dose, that is to say 100 nanograms dose, we see that they go very high. But there is a but. If we analyze the asthmatic patients, the asthmatic mice that have been treated with 4 CH of interleukin-12, that is to say 1 femtogram dose, SKA, as I will comment later, we obtain the same result of the patients that were given with 100 nanograms. But 100 nanograms dose is very toxic. It is practically lethal. Meanwhile, the same effect with low dose homeopatized 4C with SKA. SKA means sequential kinetic activation. Practically, using an homeopathic term, it is the succussion, the shaking of the different dilutions. So SKA means shaking, SKA means succussion. But if we analyze what happens to these mice given with interleukin-12 with interleukin-12 4CH, not with the succussion, practically they behave as well as the healthy patient and the asthmatic patient. So no result. The same happens for interferon gamma. This means that 4CH is the right dose of interleukin-12, only if this dilution has been shaken, has been succussed. And this is extremely important. This paper is the role of BDNF on aging modulation markers. BDNF is a brain-derived neurotrophic factor. The brain-derived neurotrophic factor was the second neurotrophic factor discovered by Dale and Johnson from the Max Planck Institute of Munich in Germany, and it was the second neurotrophic factor. It is extremely important for long-time memory, for learning, for motor association, for understanding, that is to say, for the higher thinking level. BDNF. The BDNF, I have to read in my papers because it is too small for me, was effective at 1.2 picograms milliliter, always SKA, and 25 nanograms. BDNF is increased after oral administration after 24 hours and has its maximum peak at 48 hours. The conclusions of the author about the role of BDNF on aging modulator markers are: in vitro, BDNF passes the intestinal barrier, passes the blood-brain barrier, activates neuron and astrocytes, that are the two principal elements for brain aging, and activates its principal receptor, that it is the TrkB. BDNF has two receptors, TrK or TRKB and P75. But TrkB is the 95% of the active, very active receptor, through which the BDNF goes to the cytoplasma or in the nucleus, modifying the gene expression of DNA. And in the first case, we have the short time memory, just in the cytoplasma. Memory for some hours. When it goes impressed in the DNA code, we begin to have the so-called long time memory if the pathway hippocampus, that it is the main area where BDNF is expressed, talks with the prefrontal cortical region. BDNF is mainly expressed in prefrontal cortical region, the so-called fourth man brain, the hippocampus, some parts in the entorhinal area, and in the cerebellum above all. Very interestingly, the author in vivo demonstrated that BDNF-4-CH stays long in the brain, even in absence of treatment, because it triggers endogenous physiological systems which enhance the anti-aging processes. So those are the conclusions. We do not need to give BDNF to Alzheimer patients, to Parkinson patients, to Huntington disease, dementia, or simply, but not so much simply, brain aging. We need to give BDNF-4-CH for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maximum 1 month, then rest 1, 2, 3 months, and then repeat the therapy. Clinically, BDNF-4-CH has great effect. The last paper I will present you is the clinical efficacy of low doses, an open randomized active controlled clinical trial with low dose, I repeat, low dose means homeopatized, SCA, I repeat, means succussion, cytokines versus DMARDs. DMARD means disease modifiers, anti-rheumatic drugs, evaluating low disease activity. Low disease activity, this is the main phrase to remember. Maintenance in patients with rheumatoid arthritis. This was a very good work published in BM in muscular diseases, very high level magazine, performed in 3 different hospitals in Rome. This is the flow chart. I will cut the first part because number of patients randomized and so on. So at the end they were practically formed 2 groups. Group A with we shall see later, and Group B with SMART. What happens? DMARDs, disease modifier anti-rheumatic drugs, are also called biological drugs because they act as not inflammatory anti-inflammatory medicines or as cortisons, but work directly as anti-interleukin 1 or interleukin 6 and or tumor necrosis factor alpha, which are of course pro-inflammatory cytokine. Th1 plate. I want to underline that this study has been performed according the different parameters written by the Rheumatoid Arthritis Disease Activity Measures, American College of Rheumatology recommendation for the use of clinical practice. So we have from one side the patient treated with cytokines. We shall see which cytokines. And from the other part, from SMARD. In the specific case, it was methotrexate. Here you can see the disease activity with these scores that have been analyzed, and those are all the scores of inflammation. The experiment was performed in practically 12 months. So we are here from T0, T3, 6, 9, 12 treatment, and the visit was at enrollment and the beginning of the treatment. Then at time 3, time 6, time 9, and time 2 and time 12 visit, end of the treatment. So the group A, the treated group, have been treated with guna interleukin 4. I do not repeat 4-CH because all cytokines are in 4-CH, because we saw before that this is the exact dose, the physiological dose that is homeopatized, stochastic, and useful. The only one can be and is the 4-CH, that it is an homeopathic dilution. So the treated group have been treated with guna interleukin 4 plus guna interleukin 10 plus guna interleukin anti-interleukin 1. This anti-interleukin 1 is a human recombinant of an antibody against interleukin 1. Practically, we are giving anti-inflammatory, the Th2 balance cytokines at the dose of 20 drops per day for 12 consecutive months. The maintenance of LDA at 12 months is obtained respectively in the 67% of the subject treated with homeopatized cytokines, group A, and only 42% of the patient treated with methotrexate. Very honestly, the author wrote that the difference between the groups is not statistically significant, according to the Fisher exact test. But there is a but. Also, the primary endpoint was not statistical. Also, the other parameters that we have analyzed. The only statistical parameter was pro-cytokines, was the VAS. But I have to tell you something that I think to be extremely important. If we give a disease modifier anti-inflammatory drug to a patient, we give something that can be useful. We saw before in the 47% for maintaining a low grade of disease versus the 60 and plus of the cytokines. But we are giving a substance, a drug, which is hard to control because of the many side effects. Some cases have been reported with the use of the disease modifiers, anti-rheumatic drugs, even to death. So if we have something natural, biological, homeopathic, and with the succussion, and we obtain better results, it is a very good thing for us as a doctor and for all our patients. I do thank you so much. I wish you Happy New Year and happy life to everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, sir. Can I now request the moderator to please take comments and also invite the next speaker? Dr. Rajesh Shah is our next speaker. I request sir to
Thank
please
you
switch
very
on the
much.
camera. Yeah.
Yes, I'm here, sorry. I'm honored to present Dr. Rajesh Shah, who is the next speaker. He is a researcher and academician. He has conducted a lot of provings. He delivered to the Homeopathic Society more than 150 remedies, including from biological sources like HIV nosode, hepatitis C nosode, Mycobacterium tuberculosis nosode, cancer, malaria, E. coli, and so many others. He has introduced 17-step scientific method of development of new nosodes. And recently he has developed and researched on the COVID-19 nosode and conducted a double-blind placebo-controlled trials. And of course, he is a very well-known practitioner in our homeopathic community, so we are eager to hear his presentation.
Thank you very much, Dora. And thank you, LMHI, for inviting me. This is a great opportunity. There is some technical problem, so I might not be able to share my screen as I'm using my iPhone instead of my iPad. So please excuse me. And I hope on the iPhone there is a way to share the screen.
Yes, sir, you can.
Okay. Yeah, great. So today I'm quite excited that I'm in the company of people who are talking about the importance of biologicals in homeopathy, and that is something very close to my house, my home, my heart. Sorry, I'm at a place almost 1,000 kilometers away from Mumbai. Okay, so I'll try to share my screen. So friends, we'll talk about the efficacy of Biosyn Covex, which is the COVID-19 nosode, and also talking about the modernizing nosodes in general and how we could position them in the public health. Based on my experience with researching with nosode for last almost 15 plus years. We'll briefly talk about COVID nosode, which has been named as Biosyn Covex. This was prepared from the clinical sample of SARS-CoV-2 infected patient using the BSL-2 facility in Hafkin Institute, where we have also developed different nosodes in the past. This nosode had undergone safety studies in animal model following OECD guidelines, and where it has shown the safety. It has also undergone safety in the human model, where the safety was exhibited. And most importantly, after the safety was proven, this nosode Biosyn Covex, we conducted a randomized placebo-controlled trial on 2,233 high-risk individuals who were at the quarantine facility with the Mumbai Municipal Corporation. And this study has shown significant efficacy, which I talk briefly in the subsequent slide. This human trial, which was a comparative placebo control study, has shown 62% protection against COVID-19 in preventing the infection. This study was done on adults as well as on children, and the safety was established in both these categories. What we observed was that it prevented the infection in 62% of the people, of the population. At the same time, those who got infected had much milder severity of the disease as compared to the placebo arm. It also had less reduced or less hospitalization as compared to the placebo. And as we all know, this was orally taken oral preparation. Now, briefly talking about the learnings from Biosim COVAX. Besides the interesting findings which I shared, we also observed that Biosim COVAX produced certain level of immunomodulation in the biochemistry of those people who participated in the study. It increased the IL-6 level without increasing the CRP, which is indicated that this was an immune response, which eventually led to an increase in the CD4 count. Now, these are the signs of T cell activation and activation of innate immunity. So this was one of the most important learnings from Biosim COVAX research. This gave us a clue about the potential of immunization with the homeopathic nosode, which we all have been thinking for many years, but then we did not have adequate studies. So this study is one of the initial leads, I would say, suggesting that homeopathic nosodes could be used as immunization tool in future. Of course, we need a lot more research, and we also need to explore many different kind of nosodes. Now, one of the important messages that I would like to share with you is that when we talk about immunization, we talk about vaccination. In fact, since vaccination is the only way to immunize people other than the natural infection, so we believe that vaccination is equivalent to or synonymous with immunization, or immunization is synonymous with vaccination. But in reality, there could be ways other than vaccination through which we could probably bring or achieve immunization. And I believe that COVID-19 nosode in this case is an effective tool as prophylactic. And similarly, many more nosodes could be explored for their potential roles as immunization agents. Of course, with more studies, we could establish this kind of finding. Now, at this point, Biosim COVAX, the COVID nosode, is under review process by the Ministry of Ayush and the CDSCO, which is the highest regulatory body in India, which controls the conventional medicines. Now, as you know, there are not clear-cut regulations for new homeopathic drug, especially for biological products. So as a result, this regulatory approval process has gone to the highest authority, that is CDSCO. And also, I must say that in this process, the Ministry of Ayush has worked very hard in order to support this development. And it is probably for the first time in the Indian history that a homeopathic nosode, or homeopathic medicine for that matter, has reached to the conventional regulatory body for its approval. And we hope that this approval process could happen soon, so that it could be used at least in the third wave of Omicron endemic situation, if not pandemic, because now pandemic is turning into an endemic situation. Now, what is very important is that there are a lot of challenges that we faced, and from that there is a learning, in the process of developing Biosim COVAX. Though this nosode was prepared in the month of May 2020, almost 16 months back, and its efficacy on humans was proven by September last year, more than a year ago. In spite of that, this nosode could not be utilized for the masses. The efficacy of the nosode was proven around the time when the vaccine had not entered the world. So we had a huge potential of using this nosode as a prophylactic tool, but that could not happen. We had probably missed the huge unprecedented opportunity that we had before us as a homeopathy profession. Though, the process is currently actively reviewed, but then at the end of the day, the emergency approval could not take place. And that the learning from here is that we need some mechanism in our system for emergency approval of homeopathic medicines. So we need to have clearly defined guidelines for homeopathic medicines development. Otherwise, these kind of situations, where homeopathy could have shown its potential, but we could not do it. So that is a learning, and I think, putting together, all of us need to really work on that for such a regulatory guidelines. I would like to briefly talk about modernizing the nosors. Now, when we talk about modernizing nosor, that is the area of my work for more than a decade and a half. I would like to briefly talk about the evolution of nosors. If you go back, the Soranum was the first nosor developed by Henneman in 1827. Lysine was developed in 1835. However, the rabies virus was isolated in 1885, almost 50 years later. Similarly, tuberculinum was developed by Samuel Swan in 1875. However, the Mycobacterium tuberculosis organisms were detected in 1882. So that shows that the development of nosor always has preceded, the microbial knowledge about those organisms. Similarly, Medorinum and Syphilinum were prepared in 1890, and Carcinosin was prepared somewhere in 1952. So we did good progress initially with the development of biologicals in homeopathy. However, we could not sustain, we could not grow adequately. Just for little understanding, when we say Soranum was developed in 1827. So in 1827, incidentally, the steam engine was used to run the car, as you can see in this image. However, in 2021, that is this year, we have autonomous car which has come on the road. So that is the kind of evolution which has happened in the automobile industry. Likewise, when the tuberculinum, Medorinum, Syphilinum were developed, that time electric bulb was found in 1875 to 1885, and today we have LED bulbs in place, and electric bulbs have been banned in many countries. So that is the kind of growth has happened with various scientific development. When it comes to healthcare or medicine, which has grown from leeches to LASIK surgery. So that kind of evolution has happened in the healthcare, the conventional. However, on the other side, when you talk about the nosors, we are still using the nosor, Soranum, tuberculinum, Medorinum, etc. from the back potencies. And these back potencies were prepared over 130, 140 years back. And we are still possibly using some traces of back potencies to prepare the nosors to be used today. So if you look at how are the current nosors prepared, so Soranum was prepared from the scabious discharge. Likewise, tuberculinum from sputum and abscess, so some infected tissues. Medorinum, Syphilinum were prepared from respective gonorrheal and syphilitic discharge. Now, when we say discharge of a gonorrheal patient, that is a very vague thing to say, because the gonorrheal discharge might have thousands of things. It might have the N gonorrhea, Neisseria gonorrhea, bacteria, and at the same time, it might have other infections, co-infections, different debris, various proteins and whatnot. From that, Medorinum was prepared. Likewise, Syphilinum, and Carcinosin was prepared from cancer tissues, but we do not have any knowledge, any information about the characterization of the cancer tissues. And I got to know that around 28 cancer tissues were used in the making of carcinosin. But which were those cancer tissues, we have no clue. Similarly, variolinum was prepared from smallpox scabs, which we cannot find today. Likewise, various nosors were prepared from those sources many, many years back. And how are they prepared today? That is the biggest question which we have, in my view, we have ignored. Is that today we are still using the nosodes which have been prepared from the back potencies, which are untraceable. We do not know the tuberculum which I use today in Mumbai, where what is the source of that? Was it like dated back 100 years back, 140 years back? We have no idea. So most important question here is that most of the nosodes available today in the market are non-reproducible. We are not able to reproduce the same because we do not have the source information about these nosodes. So the problems with back potency based nosodes, homeopaths often say that, oh, but they are working in our practice. Why should we bother? But there are many problems with back potency related nosodes. One, back potencies will always have limited stock because one cannot, the source which was made by Samuel Swan or somebody else, how could it last for 100 years for the entire world? It has to end somewhere. So that means that the 30 potency, probably what we are using, that may not be 30 potency. 200 potency may not be 200 potency, and likewise. At the same time, because these medicines are not tracked, there is no traceability. These medicines or nosodes do not become equally reliable. So there is a reliability question. The genuineness of the nosodes is a big question. These nosodes have not been regulated over 200 years. In 200 years, the back potencies must have traveled from Germany to France to some other parts of Europe to the US and to India and where not. And during this 200 years or 150 years, World War II and World War II happened. So I really wonder how these back potencies must have survived these two world wars, and still they are safely available in the homeopathic shops. At the same time, if you make new nosodes now, it will be a different matter, different material. And the current materia medica what we have is based on the old nosodes. So we need to really work and revamp many things in the space of nosodes. World has changed over 200 years. The technology has evolved enormously. The microbes have also mutated, as we all know. The COVID itself has mutated so many times in the last year and a half. Microbiology has also evolved. Our knowledge of microbiology, histopathology has improved so much. Our lifestyles have changed. The symptomatology also would change accordingly. The research techniques have also evolved significantly in last 150 years. Immunology is much better understood now. So with all this information, it is high time that we need to re-look at the nosodes, the old nosodes that we have. They need to be redeveloped in the scientific manner. And not only that, we of course also need to make a lot of new nosodes. So in my work, I also worked on almost 50 different new biological material-based nosodes, which I have not really spoken about because the studies are still undergoing. And these new nosodes include, as I could also see with the previous presenters, so cytokines, interleukins, various proteins, peptides, enzymes, and whatnot. So there's a huge opportunity before us from the biological world to be explored in homeopathy. So if you look at this, modernizing nosodes is not a choice. It is not an option for us. I believe that it is an absolute necessity. Now let us briefly look at nosodes and their potentials. Nosodes is immunomodulator. With our previous experiences with HIV nosode, hepatitis C nosode, and cancer nosode, we have seen that these nosodes have brought in a lot of immunomodulation in our experimental studies in laboratory animals as well as in humans. For example, HIV nosode and hepatitis C nosode, both of them have modulated the top 2 enzyme, that is topoisomerase enzyme. It is also regulated telomerase. All in all, with this, it has altered certain mitochondrial pathways, and it has led to apoptosis. It has led to inhibition of cancer cells, as well as it has also produced, very interestingly in our recent study, anti-angiogenic effect, which is suggestive of anti-cancer potential. So this kind of immunomodulation is observed with the nosode research. So, and that can enormously change the way how we look at homeopathic medicines and homeopathic therapeutics. Besides that, nosodes have also shown antimicrobial effects. We have established in our papers, in our research with HIV nosode, that HIV nosode is reduce the viral load in humans infected with HIV by increasing the CD4 count. Similarly, we have demonstrated that hepatitis C nosode has reduced the viral load in hepatitis C patients. Biosyn COVAX, as we discussed earlier, has prophylactic efficacy as well as it has shown clinical and clinically observed therapeutic efficacy in infected patients. We studied them in a good number of patients empirically and assumed that Biosyn COVAX could alter the disease. It made the disease much milder and it also prevented. It means this could not happen without it having antimicrobial or antiviral properties. So there is a huge potential about homeopathic medicines to have antimicrobial potential. To take it a little further, in our studies, we have established that E. coli, Salmonella, Klebsiella pneumonia, and gonorrhea, Plasmodium falciparum parasite, and Candida albicans, the fungus. All these 6 nosodes have shown their respective antimicrobial potentials by inhibiting the growth of these organisms in the laboratory model. Now that is excellent outcome, and it is repeated a number of nosodes. That probably brings us to a level where we could think of homeopathic nosodes as a potential antimicrobial, antibacterial, antiviral substances. And if that could happen, then just imagine what kind of growth, exponential growth that homeopathy could take in the coming years. So, talking about nosodes in the public health sector, I would say nosodes have proven potential as preventive measure. It has shown therapeutic measure efficacy. It can be used as a promotive agent. It has fantastic role which requires to be further explored and tapped in terms of its use in epidemics and pandemics. Similarly, the beauty of the nosodes is that the development of such substances could be made much faster. It is much easier as compared to other alternatives. It could be cost efficient, and so these are the aspects to be considered for public health. The most important thing here again is the regulatory support. If you want to talk about the biologicals and if you want to bring them to the public, to the masses, this cannot happen without the regulatory support. We need to have regulatory mechanisms in place, for which I've been shouting since more than 10 years in various forums. And we need to have the places, the regulation which can allow us to quickly, conduct the studies, conduct the required basic optimum research and put them to use for the masses. I would like to point out here that the homeopathic associations and groups such as LMHI and the nationwide different groups like in India, HMAI, IIHP, etc. And of course, other groups in the UK, in Europe, in Brazil, etc. They have a huge role to play. And we need to, by creating the voice, we need to have a global voice for homeopathy so that we could use the science to benefit the masses. See, I have a feeling after having spent so much of energy on various nosodes in general and the COVID nosode in particular, that we almost missed the bus. We had a huge opportunity of using this COVID nosode to control the pandemic, but we could not do it. Of course, we still have it open. We still have a possibility that in a near future we will get the approval. But we could have used this nosode much earlier on much larger scale. With this, I believe it's time to close. I thank everybody for listening to me, and if there are questions, I'll be happy to answer. I thank once again the organizers for inviting me, and I should not forget to acknowledge all those co-scientists, my co-investigators on various projects where we worked with almost 8 to 9 government and non-government institutions across the country, and with almost 35 to 40 mainstream scientists who have been kind enough to work with our homeopathic project. I acknowledge their contributions and I thank everyone for that. I hope I was audible.
Yes, that was an excellent presentation, given difficult technological challenges, but it worked out very well. And I think it will be very important to discuss things, but I noticed that the calculation of this time schedule is slightly wrong, so we run a tight of time. So before anybody times out, I would like to remind everybody that there will be a separate question and answer session in hall 4 between 11:30 and 1:30 Central European time. So even if there's no discussion time left today, please return. So we will really have time to discuss these very, very important topics in detail tomorrow between 11:30 and 13:30 CET.
So we'll move to the next presentation, and that is by Dr. Maria Carolina Megales and Dr. Angela Lenar Vieira. And about their introduction, Dr. Maria is a graduate in medicine from Federal University of Paraná, a specialist in family and community medicine at the Pontifical Catholic University of Paraná. She is a specialist in homeopathy by the specialization course in homeopathy of Londrina. Welcome you, ma'am. About Dr. Angela Lenar Vieira. Dr. Angela is graduate in medicine from Federal University of Rio Grande do Sul, medical residency in internal medicine at Santa Casa de Misericordia in Porto Alegre. She is a specialist in homeopathy by CFM. She has a private practice as a homeopath and is actively teaching and coordinating specialization courses in homeopathy of Gaucher Society of Homeopathy. Dr. Angela, we welcome you, ma'am. So Dr. Maria and Dr. Angela now will be sharing their presentation on a topic, Coroninum novo nosodio pathogenesia a analysis. Ma'am, you can take over now.
Então, bom dia, né? Boa tarde para vocês. Eu sou Maria Carolina. Eu vou lhes apresentar a primeira parte desse ensaio patogenético do coronino, o nosódio feito da secreção de doentes de Covid. Esse trabalho teve a idealização da coordenação da doutora Ângela Lenar Vieira, de Porto Alegre, e do doutor Carlos Eduardo Leitão, de Curitiba. Nossos agradecimentos também a todos os grupos de experimentadores voluntários e toda a equipe de homeopatas que ajudaram na tabulação dos dados dessa pesquisa. Que foi, então, um ensaio clínico quali-quantitativo de estudo patogenético duplo cego com alocação aleatória, realizado entre abril e junho de 2020 no Brasil. Quais são os objetivos desse nosso trabalho? Então, a gente buscou conhecer o potencial patogenético e os efeitos no corpo humano do nosódio da SARS-CoV-2, denominado coronino. Comparar os sintomas desenvolvidos nos experimentadores com os sintomas da patologia de Covid-19 em pacientes alocados na pesquisa do gene epidêmico realizado pela Comissão Brasileira de Homeopatia para a Covid em 2020. Também conhecer e comparar os sintomas psíquicos desenvolvidos ao longo da patogênese com o perfil psicológico dos pacientes afetados por Covid. E também ampliar o conhecimento patogenético do cloro, que vocês vão entender um pouco mais à frente, trazendo novos dados experimentais para essa substância. Quanto aos materiais e métodos, no que se refere aos experimentadores, foram voluntários que fossem da área da homeopatia, com boa saúde, conhecedores do processo patogenético. Essa preocupação com a qualificação da amostra se deu porque ele foi realizado à distância, esse estudo, em um curto período de observação. Então, os 84 voluntários foram listados em uma ordem não numérica, e todos assinaram um termo de consentimento esclarecido. Esses experimentadores homeopatas sabiam que estariam participando da patogenesia do coronino. Então, o recurso foi problematizá-los, e para isso, nós utilizamos o placebo e uma outra substância desconhecida. O preparo e o envio das substâncias seguiu a farmacopeia homeopática brasileira. No processo de randomização e envio da medicação, ficaram a cargo da doutora Amarilis Toledo César, farmacêutica da HN Cristiano, e da doutora Lígia Chaves de Freitas Farias e doutor Maurício Lacerda de Belém, que juntos foram os farmacêuticos que produziram o coronino. Então, esses experimentadores, os voluntários, foram randomizados em 3 grupos e as substâncias sorteadas para cada grupo, A, B e C. Todos receberam a sua medicação em suas casas. Aqui, nós observamos o nosso tamanho das amostras. O grupo A, 26 experimentadores, o grupo B, com 27, e o grupo C, com 29. Recebida a substância, o experimentador diluiria os 5 glóbulos em 3 colheres de sopa e tomaria a primeira colher, podendo repetir a cada 2 horas se não manifestasse sintomas, tendo que ser encerrada a ingesta da substância em 4 horas. Foram instruídos a anotar os sintomas com suas modalidades, ora, fatores de melhoras e piores, e assim em diante. E ao término de 10 dias de observação, os relatos seriam encaminhados por e-mail ao coordenador do estudo. O coordenador, então, de posse, então, ele retirava a identificação pessoal e encaminhava para equipes de tabulação. 3 equipes foram formadas e sorteadas uma substância para cada equipe. Então, a equipe rosa ficou com a substância A, amarela com a B e azul com a C. Isso fez o cegamento também da equipe de tabulação. E quanto aos resultados? A substância B se revelou depois ser o coronino. Dos 27 voluntários, 24 enviaram resposta. Isso nos deu 89% de aproveitamento dessa amostra. Desses pacientes, que desenvolveram, desses experimentadores que desenvolveram sintomas, 20, ou seja, 83%, apresentaram sintomas patogenéticos. Já no grupo cloro, dos 29 voluntários, 4 não enviaram, então a amostra ficou com 86% de aproveitamento. Então, dos 25 relatos, nós observamos que a presença de sintomas patogenéticos se mostrou em 21 deles, perfazendo 84%. E no grupo placebo? Então, já começamos que, dos 26 voluntários, apenas 14 não enviaram o relato. Então, nós tivemos um aproveitamento de 46%. Desses 12 relatos enviados, os sintomas patogenéticos apareceram em apenas 4 deles, dando um total de 34% de sintomas no grupo placebo. Agora aqui, então, eu agradeço e passo a palavra à doutora Ângela Nelner Vieira, que irá falar a análise e conclusões.
Bom dia a todos. Agradeço o convite da Liga Médica Homeopática Internacional e dos coordenadores do evento. E espero trazer um trabalho interessante sobre coronino. Vou colocar a apresentação. E agora? Está sendo compartilhado?
Sim, Ângela.
Muito obrigada, então. Então, o objetivo do trabalho, como a Maria Carolina tinha falado, né? Comparar os sintomas que surgiram na experimentação patogenética com os sintomas que foi coletado no grupo trabalhado, que foram em torno de 40 doentes de Covid-19, comparar, então, os sintomas da doença com os sintomas da experimentação. E também trabalhar os sintomas mentais de coronino com os sintomas da patologia Covid-19. Os resultados mostram, então, que coronino pode ser um medicamento nosológico, um medicamento do processo Covid-19, né, trazendo os sonhos dos experimentadores desde o início da experimentação, entre o primeiro e segundo dia, né, experimentadores sonham com a fonte. Aqui nós temos a experimentadora B1, que no segundo, quarto e quinto dia da experimentação, ela sonha com imagens da pandemia, sentimento de raiva e confusão a respeito das notícias. A segunda vez, ela sonha de novo com a pandemia e com confusão. E no terceiro dia, ela sonha de novo com pandemia e com confusão. Então, já mostrando uma ligação muito forte desta palavra confusão com esta doença epidêmica. Aqui um outro sonho de outro experimentador. Sonhei que abri uma gaveta e encontrei uma máscara azul, dessas que estão usando para sair à rua. Peguei a máscara e pensei que iria me contagiar, pois ela estava numa gaveta de um hóspede lá em casa. O hóspede era um rapaz alto e louro, de porte forte, que tinha vindo de viagem. Lavei bem as mãos e pensei, já não adianta, estamos todos infectados. Então, neste sonho já aparece o problema da infecção, a questão da viagem, que foi quando começa a doença Covid, né? O contágio e a pandemia. Uma conhecida se aproxima de mim e me dá um beijo. Fico apavorada, dizendo, fui contaminada, estou com Covid. Sonhos com muitos mortos pelo chão com roupões cinza, tipo roupa de médico em cirurgia. Eu voava por cima deles vestida de jaleco branco. À noite sonhei que estava com dores no corpo pela Covid e que toda a minha família também estava. Acordei-me com dor no úmero, que perdurou por muito tempo à noite e também pela manhã quando despertei. Após mover-me e entrar em atividade, desapareceu. Dor dolorida no osso, pior, deitando sobre ele. Nós vemos aqui, então, que vários experimentadores, desde o início da experimentação, sonham com a própria doença, com contágio, com viagem e com a família, ou seja, com essa contaminação adiante. É importante ressaltar que não aconteceu esse tipo de sintoma nem no grupo clorum e nem no grupo placebo. Sintomas gerais que se manifestaram na experimentação: ausência de calor vital, sensação de frio intenso com muita necessidade de agasalhos e de uma fonte externa de calor. Os experimentadores não se aqueciam. Calafrios e frio seguido de suor profuso. Aqui, muito interessante que a etapa do calor não aparece nesse processo que se assemelha à febre. Da etapa do calafrio do frio, vai direto para a transpiração copiosa. Eu vou trazendo as falas dos experimentadores, intermediando. Um frio que doía nos ossos, muito tremor no corpo. Apesar de estar um dia comum, as outras pessoas da minha casa não referiam tamanho frio. Mesmo bem agasalhada e com vários cobertores, senti muitos calafrios, até que adormeci. E na madrugada, transpirei muito. Nós vemos aqui, então, frio e calafrio seguido de transpiração copiosa. Frio em partes do corpo, no peito, no estômago, no esôfago, no abdômen, na bexiga. Também referiam que o ar respirado era frio. Frio nas áreas afetadas, sensação de uma barra de metal fria no peito, sensação de vômito gelado percorrendo o trajeto do estômago à boca. calafrios e frios seguido por suor copioso. Esse suor acontecia especialmente durante o sono. Em alguns experimentadores, também durante tarefas mentais e quadros de ansiedade. Mas a peculiaridade era um suor muito copioso, de molhar inclusive o colchão durante o sono. Modo de ação da substância. A instalação dos sintomas é extremamente rápida. Alguns experimentadores tiveram os primeiros sintomas em minutos, a maioria em horas e no primeiro dia. A direção dos sintomas se mostrou de fora para dentro, da cavidade nasal ao cérebro, das mucosas para as vísceras, de cima para baixo, do nariz aos pulmões, da cavidade oral às vísceras abdominais. É tão importante essa direção no sentido de fora para dentro e do superficial para o profundo, que o experimentador a cada dia relatava o nível do sintoma num ponto mais profundo do organismo. Quando era no tubo digestivo, ele ia baixando gradativamente. Esôfago, estômago, duodeno, intestino. E o padrão de ação da substância. Existe um padrão muito importante de intermitência. Os sintomas vêm e vão em ciclos regulares e, mais frequentemente, irregulares. Por exemplo, o suor noturno tinha um ciclo regular. A alteração de sono à noite, a intercorrência de sonhos com um ciclo regular. O padrão de febre com um ciclo relativamente irregular. Outros sintomas eram totalmente irregulares. A reação vital durante a experimentação, muito fraca e ameaçada. Sensação muito ruim, como de angústia muito grande, como de morte iminente. Fraqueza, tremores nas mãos, não conseguia ficar em pé sem apoio, deitada sem forças. Fala do experimentador. Por 2 vezes senti como se fosse desfalecer. Sensação muito rápida, como se fosse ir embora. Seria como morrer ou como abandonar o corpo. Durou segundos. Me obrigou a sentar. Não foi precedida por nada, foi súbita, como uma fraqueza intensa e aguda que logo desapareceu. Essa fala nos lembra muito os casos de choque ou os casos de síncope que acompanharam os processos de Covid mais grave. As sensações de dores, né? Choques elétricos na região torácica e lombar, como se desse curto-circuito que se propaga por vários fios nessa região, acompanhado de fraqueza, como se fosse desfalecer. Os sintomas gerais dos experimentadores de coronino. Sede extrema para grandes quantidades a cada vez. Líquidos frios ou refrescantes. Desejo por doce, chocolate, frutas, vinho e por bebidas quentes que traziam alívio, especialmente da sensação extrema de frio. Os horários de agravação se mostraram, de manhã ao acordar, muita rigidez nos músculos, articulações, muita dor de cabeça nesse horário também. E ao anoitecer, com perda de energia e com sensação de febre. Entre 1 e 4 horas da madrugada, os experimentadores acordavam com muita frequência, com muitos sonhos vívidos, tinham transpiração muito abundante. A agravação pelo movimento se dava em relação aos sintomas gerais, de fraqueza, de cansaço, de dificuldade respiratória. E o alívio continuado pelo movimento nos sintomas das dores e rigidez muscular. Também melhoravam por dormir prolongadamente. As sensações peculiares, especialmente a ardência. Ardência é uma sensação que perpassa toda a experimentação e os sintomas. Essa ardência se dá não como uma queimação em brasa, é uma ardência mais leve, muito parecida com os pacientes que têm câncer, falam dessa dor ardente que se estende de um ponto para o resto. uma dor importante em pressão. Essa dor em pressão aparecia muito no tórax, aparecia muito na cabeça, era uma pressão muito na região frontal, entre os olhos ou no fundo dos olhos, ou na região occipital. Secura interna e externa. A secura interna acompanhada de uma sede muito abundante, e a secura externa fazendo com que o experimentador tivesse a sensação quase que de dormência da área, às vezes com a sensação de que a mão tem uma luva de couro, ou seja, era uma secura mais profunda, quase anestésica. E uma sensação pontual que aparece em muitas dores, como se um dedo estivesse empurrando a área ou como se um dedo apontasse. Sensações de atordoamento, essas sensações são mais a nível cerebral. Essa substância afeta por demais o intelecto e também a mente do experimentador. No intelecto, traz muita sensação de atordoamento, de confusão mental, aquela confusão que o experimentador relatava com a pandemia e a confusão, se apresenta muito a nível intelectual e mental. Obnubilação, quase como um anestésico também, uma falta de foco e de compreensão. A questão do foco é uma coisa muito importante na experimentação desse medicamento, é a perda de foco ou a visão focal hipnótica, né? O anestesiamento, a sensação de irrealidade com o processo e um sentimento profundo de aflição. As ilusões do medicamento, a ilusão de estar contaminado, a ilusão que o seu aparelho respiratório está preenchido por um gás corrosivo, a ilusão de estar envolto em uma nuvem, a ilusão de um vácuo que puxa para trás e uma ilusão de irrealidade com a sensação de se sentir confuso e atônito. A questão do atordoamento. O atordoamento nesse medicamento aparece da seguinte forma. Olha a questão do foco. Falta de foco, dificuldade de compreender claramente o que acontecia comigo, como se vivendo uma irrealidade. Isso não pode estar acontecendo. Apreensão, estado de alerta, como quando se leva um susto. Algo acontece e provoca um estado um tanto anestesiado de incredulidade perante aquela situação limite que se apresenta de forma inesperada e súbita. Vejam a gravidade da sensação que o experimentador tem ao ingerir a substância, né? É que ele sofre um atordoamento que lhe tira totalmente do foco, lhe deixa confuso, atônito, como se ele levasse um susto e ficasse entre um estado anestesiado e um estado de alerta e alarme, né? Nada a fazer a não ser se entregar a essa nuvem, olha a palavra nuvem, que parece ter se abatido sobre mim de forma intensa, abrupta e assustadora. Choro por sentir que tudo é muito frágil e efêmero. O atordoamento que permanecia desde a primeira crise se desanuvia parcialmente. Então, nós temos o enuviamento e o desanuviamento, né? A parte onírica desse medicamento é muito importante, é muito intensa. Coronino tem sonhos muito vívidos, sonhos muito lúcidos, sonhos clarividentes que se relacionam com a própria doença. Sonhos intensos e com muita consciência. Sonhos que se continuam após acordar e dormir. O experimentador acordava várias vezes, voltando a dormir, e o sonho tinha sequência. Sonhos vívidos, lúcidos, clarividentes. Muitos sonhos com animais domésticos. Muitos sonhos com os pets mortos. Com pessoas do passado, com pessoas indiferentes. E com uma percepção de estar sonhando no sonho e com a percepção da confusão. A sensação no sonho de confusão é muito importante. Comparando-se coronino a um processo gripal, nós temos sintomas como se pródromo de uma gripe, de leve a moderada intensidade, vontade de deitar, sede um pouco diminuída e apetite normal. Acordo com sensação de queimação na traqueia e brônquios, na parte anterior do tórax, respiração um pouco ofegante. No aparelho respiratório, sempre acordando com obstrução nas narinas que melhora ao levantar. Ao anoitecer, sensação forte de ardência nas narinas e seios paranasais, como se houvesse inalado um gás corrosivo. Acontece em repetidos episódios de tosse seca paroxística ao longo da madrugada, muito irritativa, aliviando cada vez menos com a água. Vamos ver a vivência desse experimentador. Tomou a substância às 11 horas da manhã. À tarde, sentiu o nariz escorrer, coriza aquosa, pouca quantidade. Pela manhã do segundo dia, acordou-se com coriza e sensação de leve secura na garganta. À noite, teve sensação de um catarro entre o nariz e a garganta, que tinha alguma ligação com o pulmão. Ficou por mais de 1 hora sentindo que não conseguia buscar o ar. Tinha falta de ar desagradável, não conseguindo expandir os pulmões e sensação de muito frio. Deitou-se com muitos cobertores e por meia hora teve dispneia e pensou que se aquilo acontecesse com seus pais, seria muito horrível. Uma pessoa querer buscar o ar e não conseguir. Sentimento de impotência e muito desamparo. Ninguém poderia ajudar, somente uma máquina que empurrasse o ar para dentro. Sentiu ansiedade e ficou todo o tempo controlando a respiração, com receio de que, tirando a atenção da respiração, perderia o controle sobre ela. Após umas 2 horas dormiu e no outro dia ligou aos pais por preocupação com a saúde dos mesmos. Obstrução é outra palavra importante nesse medicamento. Sensação de que respirar não é algo natural, que precisa de atenção para não sair do ritmo e gerar sufocação. Constrição na traqueia, inchaço na traqueia, sensação de obstrução das vias aéreas por pouco muco. 2 horas depois eu tinha um compromisso. A minha filha trancou o meu carro. E não era algo importante, nunca reagiria desta forma. E muitas vezes isso havia acontecido. Chegar na garagem e ter que voltar para pegar a chave do carro que me trancava. Entrei em franco desespero. Pensei que não daria mais tempo para fazer o que tinha a fazer. Fiquei totalmente descompensada, meus olhos arregalados, uma expressão horrível, o coração disparado e as mãos trêmulas. Quadro digestivo, nós temos 2 polos importantes na patologia COVID-19, o polo respiratório e o polo digestivo. Ardência e queimação epigástrica após comer, persistência de fome mesmo comendo. Fome é um sintoma muito importante que acompanha os pacientes ou os experimentadores, ainda quando não estão na fase mais grave. Eructações ardentes e ácidas, náuseas pelo odor da comida, mas não por comer. Refluxo com queimação na área esofágica, distensão abdominal, eructações frequentes, náuseas com apetite aumentado e sensação de fome. Fala do experimentador. Ao me servir, senti náuseas, repentinamente, e vontade de vomitar muito grande. Corri para o banheiro e não consegui vomitar. Tive uma sensação de frio fazendo o percurso do vômito, vindo do estômago até o trato gastrointestinal superior. Mas na hora do vômito sair, tive somente fortes eructações que aliviaram. A vertigem é outro ponto muito importante no medicamento. Elas são súbitas, com sensação de queda, especialmente para o lado direito, especialmente ao virar para o lado direito, ao levantar-se da cama ou de estar sentado. A vertigem é como uma síncope, como se fosse desvanecer. A cabeça, outro polo muito importante do medicamento, dores de cabeça, sensação de confusão, obnubilação, acordei com cefaleia sentida na fronte de forte intensidade constante, sem concomitantes e sem modalidades, só cessando com analgésico. A 1h25 da madrugada, acordo com muita dor de cabeça, sensação de latejamento em cima da cabeça, como se tivesse uma tampinha apertando na cabeça, insuportável. Acordo com dor de cabeça latejante, sensação de pressão no fundo do olho, pior à direita, acompanhada por tensão na musculatura da região cervical, melhora discreta pela pressão sobre os pontos dolorosos. As cefaleias de coronino são muito acompanhadas de tensão cervical e tensão na área torácica, muitas vezes de dores nos ombros que se irradiam e também dores no tórax. Coronino como medicamento crônico, né? Ele tem duas ações nos experimentadores. Uma ação que talvez possa ser considerada uma ação curativa, onde ele produz um quadro de clareza mental, foco nas atividades, rapidez de ação, caráter decisivo, organização, ordem, justiça e comprometimento. E produz um segundo quadro sintomático que é exatamente em oposição, que parece ser o quadro da doença. Dificuldade muito grande de percepção, perda do foco, perda da capacidade de discernimento, dificuldade de lidar com números e com coisas objetivas, atordoamento, estado de ansiedade, aflição, apreensão e angústia, confusão mental e desorganização mental. Disposição, fala do experimentador, disposição incomum ao despertar, com vontade de organizar várias coisas, sensação de que preciso me livrar de tudo o que não preciso. Sinto muita energia para fazer as tarefas e atividades do dia. Agora o oposto. Ontem à noite, percebi várias lesões avermelhadas no meu rosto. Pequenas bolinhas, muitas delas. As maiores, tinha sensação de ardência. Não sei desde quando estão ali. Elas são chamativas, mas eu não as tinha percebido. É uma sensação de desorganização mental e de muita confusão. Sinto como se estivesse obnubilada, pouca percepção das necessidades à minha volta. Crises de choro súbita, intensa, com soluços, precedida por sensação de atordoamento. Tristeza profunda, sentimento de impotência. Necessidade de estar perto dos meus filhos, tocá-los. Conversar com eles foi me fazendo sentir melhor. Aumento da sensação de atordoamento, com pressão na cabeça e uma sensação de vazio, como se houvesse um vácuo que puxasse o meu corpo para trás. Desconforto propaga-se para a região inferior do externo, confusão, fake news, sentimento de injustiça. Conclusões. Coronino apresenta similitude com o quadro agudo da Covid-19. Coronino apresenta sintomas mentais compatíveis com sintomas dos doentes de Covid-19. Coronino apresenta potencial para tratamento crônico. Cloro produz muitos sintomas respiratórios semelhantes ao quadro da Covid-19, porém, produz muitos sintomas na pele compatíveis com dermatite atópica. Cloro produz sintomas mentais muito diversos de coronino. Os sintomas mentais de cloro nos levam a pensar em doentes que passaram por situações abusivas de ordem sexual na infância e adolescência, e também doentes fixados na relação materna, com problemas em relação ao pai e aos homens da família. Portanto, esse trabalho mostrou que coronino pode ser usado como medicamento preventivo e que ele tem uma bela indicação para o tratamento da patologia Covid-19. Além do mais, o resultado da experimentação nos faz pensar em patologias de ordem crônica, onde existe onde a mente está muito afetada, a parte intelectual bastante afetada no estado confusional. E mais ainda, existe na questão do coronino a possibilidade de ele ser um medicamento para a questão obstrutiva. Isso apareceu tanto nas sensações físicas de obstrução respiratória, apareceu na parte digestiva, como obstrução de gases e de eliminação fecal, como aparece na situação mental de sentir que o seu caminho está trancado, obstruído, e isso levar a uma sensação muito forte de desespero, de confusão e de perda de possibilidade de resolução. Eu espero, com essa apresentação, ter deixado algumas coisas mais claras em relação a essa substância. Agradeço muito a escuta de todos e me coloco à disposição para maiores esclarecimentos. Muito obrigada.
Thank you so much for the wonderful talk. Can I request the moderator to kindly say a few words? Dr. Dora?
Thanks to all the presenters. I think this session was extremely important with all the information provided. And it's something which we have to develop in future to make homeopathy. I think this session was extreme to make homeopathy more close to our allopathic colleagues, but also to give help to much more patients. Because with this signaling molecules potentized and with all the research we can do and with all the new drugs and provings, we are really giving more hope to patients. So thank you to all participants.
Thank you so much. And we would like to have special thanks to Bulgaria for hosting this. But now we're going to be moving from Bulgaria to South Africa. And we shall be getting started with the next session in exactly 10 minutes from now. Thank you so much for being a part of this. Before we move forward, can I request all to please switch on your cameras so that we can take a screenshot, and don't forget to smile.
And also the chair, just to say comment. Chair, Robert.
Yes,
Robert,
I have to be very brief. I will be very
Dr.
brief.
Mohanty.
But I think we have seen a very, very broad perspective here. I think we see a modern perspective emerging for homeopathy with biology, immunology, the modern scientific state of affairs and knowledge flowing into homeopathy. And I think that's very positive. On the other hand, we've also seen a Hahnemann improving on the COVID nosode. So I think it's really about trying to bridge this tradition of homeopathy and bring it in a modern framework. And that's all I'm going to say for now. But I have personally a lot of questions that I look forward to discussing tomorrow. And I'm sure all of you have many questions. So please remember to turn up tomorrow where we can really explore these topics in depth. But thank you very much to all the speakers.
Dr. Mohanty, would you like to say a few words, please? I think it's now time for a photograph. We have Arya from the Grover audio video team who's going to take a picture. Everybody smile. In 3 seconds, we're going to take a picture. 1, 2, and thank you so much. We're now moving from Bulgaria to South Africa. And again, reminder to all the faculty present, we've got another 2 halls as well, which is also going on. So I request you to join the other halls, enjoy the scientific extravaganza, which is only for all of you. We've got a total of 4 halls. Right now, we've got other halls also going on. All you have to do is just go into your email, which is your registered email ID, and check on the link, and you shall be able to join in as well. Thank you so much for being a part and making this a huge success. Special thanks from the organizing committee as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.